Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The station stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction, with gleaming towers and spinning rings that housed millions of alien beings. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, and Jake was about to make humanity's first official contact with the galaxy's rulers. "It's beautiful," said Dr. Lisa Park, the mission's xenobiologist. She pressed her face against the observation window, her eyes wide with wonder. "Look at those energy patterns. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." Commander Ryan Clark, the ship's tactical officer, was less impressed. "Big doesn't always mean better," he said quietly, but Jake could hear the doubt in his voice. The Liberty was tiny compared to the alien vessels they had passed on their way in. Human technology suddenly felt very primitive. Diplomat Amanda Foster straightened her formal uniform and checked her translation device one final time. "Remember, we're here to establish peaceful relations," she said. "We need to show them that Earth is ready to join the galactic community." The Liberty docked at one of Nexus Prime's many bays. As they walked through the airlock, Jake felt the weight of history on his shoulders. He was leading humanity's first diplomatic mission to the stars. Everything that happened today would shape Earth's future for generations to come. The docking bay was enormous. Alien ships of every shape and size filled the space. Some looked like crystals that had grown into ship-like forms. Others resembled living creatures with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse with life. The Liberty looked crude and basic next to these marvels of technology. A tall, thin alien approached their group. His skin was pale blue, and his eyes were large and silver. He wore robes that seemed to shift color as he moved. "I am Ambassador Trevek," he said through their translation devices. His voice carried a tone that Jake didn't like. It sounded like someone talking to a child. "I will escort you to the council chamber." As they walked through the station's old corridors, Jake noticed how other aliens looked at them. Some stopped to stare, others whispered among themselves. A few laughed. The message was clear. Humans were curiosities, not equals. The council chamber was breathtaking. It was a massive sphere with the speaking platform in the center. Thousands of alien representatives filled the seats that covered every surface of the sphere. At the top sat 3 enormous thrones where the council's leaders waited. High Chancellor Vextar was a Zeltharan like Trevek, but much larger and more imposing. His robes were deep purple, and when he spoke, his voice boomed through the chamber. "So these are the humans," he said, and Jake heard amusement in his tone. "The species that only just learned to leave their home planet." To Vextar's left sat Speaker Zilneth of the Cathera Collective. She looked like a living crystal formation, with light flowing through her transparent body in complex patterns. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Their ships are made of simple metal alloys," she said. "How quaint." The third leader was Queen Sectra of the Hive Worlds. She resembled a giant insect with multiple arms and compound eyes. Her voice clicked and buzzed as she spoke. "Chemical rockets," she said with what sounded like laughter. "We haven't seen such primitive technology in 1,000 years." Amanda stepped forward and activated the formal greeting she had practiced for months. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," she began, "humanity comes before you in peace. We seek to join the galactic community and contribute to the prosperity of all species." High Chancellor Vextar leaned forward in his throne. "Contribute," he said. "What could a species like yours possibly contribute? You have no advanced technology. Your ships can barely reach the edge of your own solar system. Your planet is divided into competing nations that still fight wars with explosive weapons." The chamber filled with sounds that Jake realized were alien laughter. His face burned with embarrassment, but he kept his expression neutral. This was not going as they had hoped. Speaker Zilneth's crystalline form pulsed with brighter light. "Perhaps they could serve as laborers," she suggested. "Their primitive nature might suit them for simple tasks." Queen Sectra's compound eyes focused on the human delegation. "Or entertainment," she clicked. "It has been ages since we've seen beings so limited in their thinking." High Chancellor Vexatar raised one hand, and the chamber fell silent. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision," he announced. "Earth will be granted the status of probationary observer species. You may observe Council proceedings, but you have no voting rights. You may not establish colonies beyond your home system. You may not develop weapons beyond your current primitive level." Jake felt his heart sink. This wasn't membership. It was barely tolerance. Furthermore, Vexatar continued, Earth will be assigned a council monitor to ensure compliance with galactic law. Any violations will result in immediate suspension of even these limited privileges. Ambassador Trevek stepped forward. "I will personally oversee Earth's probationary period," he said with a smile that didn't reach his silver eyes. "I'm sure we can help humanity understand their proper place in the galaxy." The ceremony was over. As they walked back to the Liberty, none of the humans spoke. The weight of humiliation was too heavy for words. They had come to the stars expecting to be welcomed as equals. Instead, they had been treated like children who needed adult supervision. Back on the ship, Jake sat in his quarters, staring out at the stars. Ryan Clark knocked on his door and entered without waiting for permission. "Captain," Ryan said quietly, "I've been studying their ship designs while we've been here." "And?" Jake asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to hear more about how advanced the aliens were. "They're impressive," Ryan admitted. "But they're also predictable. Every ship follows the same basic principles. They've had the same technology for so long that they've stopped innovating." Jake turned to look at his tactical officer. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that maybe being underestimated isn't entirely a bad thing," Ryan replied. "They think we're primitive. That means they're not watching us very carefully." Dr. Lisa Park appeared in the doorway. "I've been analyzing their biological data," she said. "These species have been spacefaring for thousands of years. They're ancient and powerful, but they're also set in their ways." Amanda joined them, her diplomatic smile replaced by something harder. "They made one mistake today," she said. "What's that?" Jake asked. "They showed us exactly what they think of humanity," Amanda replied. "Now we know what we're dealing with." As the Liberty left Nexus Prime and began its long journey back to Earth, Jake Morrison made a silent promise. Humanity would return to the galactic stage, and when they did, the Council would learn that underestimating humans was a very dangerous mistake. 3 months after Captain Jake Morrison returned from Nexus Prime, a Zeltharan ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. The vessel was sleek and beautiful, shaped like a silver teardrop that gleamed in the sunlight. It sent a message to every government on Earth simultaneously. Ambassador Trevek requested an immediate meeting with Earth's leaders. President Helen Carter sat in the Oval Office, her hands folded tightly on the mahogany desk. Around her stood the most important people in the American government: General Pete Williams, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, stood by the window watching news reports of alien ship sightings around the globe. Dr. Karen Stone, the president's chief, science advisor, reviewed data on her tablet with a frown. Intelligence Director Alex Thompson paced near the bookshelf, his phone buzzing constantly with updates from field agents. "Madam President," General Williams said, turning from the window, "every major capital in the world is reporting the same thing. The alien ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They want to meet with world leaders in exactly 6 hours." Dr. Stone looked up from her tablet. "The ship's energy readings are off the charts," she said. "Their technology is definitely more advanced than anything we saw in Morrison's reports from the Council Station." Alex Thompson stopped pacing and faced the president. "My sources at the Pentagon say this isn't a friendly visit," he said quietly. "The ship's positioning suggests they're ready to defend themselves if necessary." President Carter nodded slowly. She had been expecting this ever since reading Captain Morrison's report about humanity's humiliating reception at the Galactic Council. The aliens had made it clear that they saw Earth as inferior. Now they were here to make demands. 6 hours. Later, Ambassador Trevek materialized in the United Nations General Assembly Hall in New York. The alien technology that allowed him to appear without a ship or transport amazed the gathered world leaders, but his message quickly overshadowed any wonder they might have felt. Trevek stood at the podium with the same condescending smile he had worn at Nexus Prime. His pale blue skin seemed to glow under the bright lights, and his silver eyes scanned the assembled human leaders like a teacher looking at unruly students. "People of Earth," he began, his voice carrying easily through the hall's translation systems. "The Galactic Council has completed its assessment of your world. We have determined that Earth possesses certain resources that would benefit the greater galactic community." President Carter felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard similar words before, in history books about colonialism and conquest. The language was polite, but the meaning was clear. "The Council requires the following from Earth," Trevek continued, activating a holographic display that showed detailed information about Earth's resources. 40% of your agricultural output will be redirected to support Council member worlds experiencing food shortages. 60% of your rare Earth minerals will be extracted and shipped to Council space for technological development. Angry murmurs filled the assembly hall. President Carter saw the Chinese premier lean forward in his seat, his face dark with anger. The European Union representative was frantically taking notes, while the African Union leader simply stared at the alien with unconcealed hostility. "Furthermore," Trevek said, raising his voice to quiet the crowd, "the Council will establish colonies on your moon and on the planet you call Mars. These colonies will serve as administrative centers for Council oversight of Earth's compliance with galactic law." The Russian president stood up abruptly. "And if we refuse?" he asked in heavily accented English. Trevek's smile grew wider, but his silver eyes remained cold. "Refusal is not advisable," he said. "The Council has brought many species into compliance over the millennia. Economic sanctions would be the first response. Earth would be cut off from all galactic trade routes. Your ships would be turned away from any Council space. Your planet would be isolated until you reconsidered." "Economic sanctions," the Japanese Prime Minister said quietly. "That sounds almost reasonable." "The first step is always economic pressure," Trevek agreed. "However, if economic measures prove insufficient, the Council has other options. Military pacification has been necessary in some cases. We prefer not to use such methods, but we will if compliance cannot be achieved through peaceful means." The hall erupted in angry voices. World leaders shouted questions and protests, but Trevek simply stood at the podium with his patient smile. After several minutes, he raised his hand, and the room gradually quieted. "You have 6 months to begin compliance," he announced. "Council monitors will arrive in 1 month to oversee the initial resource transfers. The lunar and Martian colonies will be established within 3 months. Any resistance to these measures will be met with appropriate responses." With that, Trevek simply vanished, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone and a room full of furious world leaders. Back in Washington, President Carter called an emergency meeting with her key advisors. The news of the alien demands had already leaked to the media, and riots were breaking out in major cities around the world. Humanity's dream of joining the galactic community had become a nightmare of subjugation. "The public reaction is exactly what we expected," Alex Thompson reported. "Anger, fear, and demands for resistance. The polls show that 87% of Americans oppose compliance with the alien demands." General Williams spread military reports across the conference table. "Our conventional forces are no match for their technology," he said bluntly. "The analysis of their ship's defensive capability suggests that our most powerful weapons would barely scratch their hulls." Dr. Stone cleared her throat. "Actually, that might not be entirely true," she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "I've been reviewing the data from Captain Morrison's mission, and I've noticed something interesting about alien technology." "What kind of something?" President Carter asked. "They're incredibly advanced, but they're also incredibly standardized," Dr. Stone explained. "Every ship, every device, every system follows the same basic principles that haven't changed in centuries. They've become so comfortable with their superiority that they've stopped innovating." "Are you suggesting we can compete with them technologically?" General Williams asked skeptically. "I'm suggesting that human creativity and adaptability might give us advantages they don't expect," Dr. Stone replied. "We've been studying their technology for 3 months now. With unlimited funding and resources, we might be able to develop countermeasures." President Carter leaned back in her chair. "What would you need?" "Everything," Dr. Stone said. "Every black project, every experimental program, every theoretical research initiative gets full funding and priority status. We need to accelerate human technological development by decades in a matter of months." "And if we can't," Alex Thompson asked, "then we'll be farming crops and mining minerals for alien masters for the rest of human history," President Carter said grimly. The president made her decision. "Dr. Stone, you have unlimited resources. General Williams, prepare our military for the possibility that diplomacy might fail. Alex, I need to know everything about Council military capabilities and weaknesses." As the meeting ended, President Carter stood alone in the Oval Office, looking out at the White House lawn where protesters had gathered. Signs demanding resistance to the aliens mixed with others calling for compliance to avoid war. She thought about the generations of Americans who had faced impossible odds and found ways to survive and thrive. "They think we're primitive," she said quietly to herself. "Let's show them what primitive humans can do when their backs are against the wall." Outside, the alien ship continued its silent orbit around Earth, a constant reminder that humanity's independence hung in the balance. In 6 months, the galaxy would learn whether humans would submit to alien rule or fight for their freedom. President Carter intended to make sure that fight would be one the Galactic Council would never forget. Dr. Neil Grant wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked on the quantum processor array in his underground laboratory beneath MIT. The facility had been built in record time after President Carter gave unlimited funding to advance human technology. Around him, dozens of the world's brightest scientists worked around the clock on projects that would have seemed impossible just months ago. "Neil, you need to see this," called Dr. Sophie Rivera from across the lab. She was hunched over a computer terminal, her eyes wide with excitement. Sophie had been working on artificial intelligence systems, trying to understand why the Galactic Council seemed to have such limited AI development despite their advanced technology. Neil walked over to Sophie's workstation, stepping carefully, around cables and equipment that covered every inch of floor space. The laboratory looked like chaos, but it was organized chaos. Every piece of equipment served a purpose in humanity's desperate race to level the technological playing field. "What did you find?" Neil asked, looking at the complex code scrolling across Sophie's screens. "I've been analyzing the communication protocols from the alien ship," Sophie explained. "Their computer systems are incredibly advanced, but they're also incredibly rigid. Everything follows predetermined patterns. There's no creativity, no adaptation, no learning beyond basic parameters." Neil frowned. "That doesn't make sense. With their level of technology, they should have artificial intelligence that makes our best systems look like pocket calculators." "That's exactly the point," Sophie said, turning to face him. "They don't have true artificial intelligence. They have very sophisticated programs, but nothing that can think independently or adapt to unexpected situations." Across the laboratory, Colonel Matt Barnes reviewed security reports while keeping an eye on the scientists. He had been assigned to oversee the Phoenix Initiative, the code name for humanity's crash program to develop defensive technologies. Matt was a career military officer who had served in conflicts around the world, but nothing had prepared him for managing a project that could determine humanity's survival. "Dr. Rivera," Matt called out, "can you explain this in terms a soldier can understand?" Sophie smiled. "Imagine an enemy that always attacks in the same formation, using the same tactics, following the same playbook. No matter how advanced their weapons are, their predictability becomes a weakness." Nearby, programmer Lucy Chen looked up from her own workstation where she was developing the control systems for Sophie's AI research. "It's more than that," Lucy added. "Their entire civilization seems built on hierarchy and rigid thinking. They can't imagine that a primitive species like humans might approach problems differently." Neil nodded slowly. "Which gives us an advantage they don't expect." In another section of the facility, Dr. Grant's team had made breakthrough discoveries in quantum computing that exceeded anything the aliens had demonstrated. Human quantum processors were smaller, faster, and more efficient than Council technology. More importantly, they were designed with flexibility and adaptability that alien systems lacked. "The quantum entanglement patterns are stable," reported Dr. Rivera as she monitored the latest test. "We're getting processing speeds that are 3 times faster than anything in the Council database." Colonel Barnes received a secure communication on his military tablet. After reading it, he gathered the key scientists around a conference table in the center of the laboratory. "I've got an update from General Williams," Matt announced. "Military intelligence has finished analyzing the combat data from Council archives. General Kate Brooks has some interesting findings." He activated a holographic display that showed various alien ship designs and battle formations. According to General Brooks, every species in the Galactic Council fights according to strict doctrines that haven't changed in centuries. The Zeltharans always attack in pyramid formations. The Kythera use geometric patterns based on crystalline structures. The hive species swarm in predictable waves. Dr. Grant studied the tactical displays. They're fighting by rule books. Exactly, Colonel Barnes confirmed. Human military history shows us constantly adapting, innovating, and changing tactics based on circumstances. The aliens seem incapable of that kind of flexibility. Lucy Chen leaned forward, excited. That means our AI systems could predict their moves while being completely unpredictable to them. Sophie Rivera was already working on her computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard. I can design AI algorithms that specifically exploit rigid thinking patterns, she said. If they can't adapt to unexpected tactics, we can create systems that are constantly generating new approaches. Dr. Grant felt a surge of hope for the first time since the alien demands had been delivered. How long do we need? The basic AI framework is already functional, Sophie replied. Give me 2 more weeks to integrate it with the quantum processors, and we'll have something the Council has never seen before. Colonel Barnes checked his watch. 2 weeks puts us right at the deadline for the Council monitors to arrive. Perfect timing. In the weeks that followed, the underground facility became a hive of activity that rivaled any alien installation. Scientists worked in shifts around the clock, fueled by determination and the knowledge that failure meant the end of human independence. Dr. Rivera's artificial intelligence system, which they code-named Prometheus, exceeded all expectations. Unlike the rigid alien computer systems, Prometheus could learn, adapt, and generate creative solutions to problems in real time. It could analyze alien combat patterns and instantly develop countermeasures that had never been tried before. Dr. Grant's quantum computing array provided the processing power to run Prometheus at speeds that made split-second tactical decisions possible. The combination of human creativity programmed into an AI system and quantum processing power created something entirely new in galactic history. The weapons targeting systems are online, reported Lucy Chen during a final test of the integrated systems. Prometheus can coordinate defensive measures across multiple platforms simultaneously. Shield harmonics are optimized, added Dr. Rivera. The AI can adjust defensive frequencies faster than alien weapons can adapt. Colonel Barnes reviewed the final reports with satisfaction. Dr. Stone is going to be very pleased with these results. But the biggest breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Grant discovered that human technology could be miniaturized far beyond what alien engineering achieved. Where Council species built massive ships with enormous power systems, humans could pack the same capabilities into much smaller vessels. Size isn't everything, Neil explained to the team during their final briefing. Our ships will be faster, more maneuverable, and harder to hit than anything the Council has faced. Sophie Rivera added, and with Prometheus controlling multiple small ships simultaneously, we can coordinate attacks that would be impossible for beings limited to rigid thinking patterns. As the deadline approached, humanity had developed technological capabilities that the Galactic Council couldn't imagine. The aliens saw humans as primitive because they used chemical rockets and metal ships. They never considered that primitive materials could be enhanced with quantum computing and adaptive artificial intelligence. Colonel Barnes received the final authorization from President Carter to begin production of the new defensive systems. The President wants to know if we're ready, he announced to the assembled scientists. Dr. Grant looked around the laboratory where impossible had become possible in just a few months. We're not just ready, he said with confidence. We're going to show the Council what happens when they underestimate human ingenuity. Dr. Rivera smiled as she watched Prometheus run through combat simulations, defeating alien tactical programs with ease. "They think we're primitive," she said. "They have no idea what primitive humans can accomplish when their survival depends on it." The stage was set for humanity's response to the Council's demands. Earth's scientists had given their species something the galaxy had never seen: technology that combined advanced capabilities with the unpredictability and creativity that made humans unique. The Galactic Council was about to learn that their biggest mistake was treating humanity as inferior rather than recognizing them as different. President Helen Carter stood behind the podium in the White House press room, facing cameras that would broadcast her words to every nation on Earth and beyond. Behind her stood Admiral Jack Roberts, the newly appointed head of Earth's Space Defense Force, and General Pete Williams, whose military expertise had become invaluable during the past months of preparation. The room was packed with reporters from around the world, but Carter knew her real audience was much larger. Ambassador Trevek had arrived that morning with council monitors to oversee Earth's compliance with the galactic demands. In a few hours, they expected to begin collecting Earth's resources and establishing alien colonies on Luna and Mars. They were about to be very disappointed. "My fellow human beings," President Carter began, her voice steady and clear. "6 months ago, we reached out to the stars in friendship. We sought to join the galactic community as equals, to share in the wonders of space, and to contribute to the prosperity of all species." She paused, letting her words sink in. Around the world, people gathered around televisions and computer screens, knowing that this moment would define humanity's future. "Instead, we were met with arrogance and contempt," Carter continued. "The Galactic Council looked at humanity and saw not potential partners, but resources to be exploited. They demanded that we surrender our food, our minerals, and our sovereignty. They expected us to accept alien colonies on our worlds and alien oversight of our civilization." In the VIP section of the press room, Ambassador Trevek sat with his silver eyes fixed on the president. His pale blue face showed the same condescending smile he always wore when dealing with humans, but Carter thought she detected a hint of uncertainty in his expression. "Today I deliver Earth's response to those demands," President Carter announced, her voice growing stronger. "The United States of America, speaking on behalf of all human nations, categorically rejects the Galactic Council's ultimatum. We will not surrender our resources. We will not accept alien colonies on our worlds. We will not submit to galactic oversight." The press room erupted in questions and shouts, but Carter raised her hand for silence. Ambassador Trevek was no longer smiling. He leaned forward in his seat, his silver eyes wide with what looked like genuine surprise. "Furthermore," Carter continued, "we demand that the Galactic Council recognize Earth as an equal member of the galactic community with full voting rights and territorial sovereignty. We are prepared to contribute to galactic prosperity through fair trade and cooperation, but we will not be vassals to alien masters." A reporter shouted above the noise, "Madam President, what if the Council refuses these terms?" Carter looked directly into the cameras. "Then they will learn that humanity did not survive ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters by surrendering to bullies. We will defend ourselves by any means necessary." Admiral Jack Roberts stepped forward. "At this time, I'm authorized to reveal that Earth has not been idle during the past 6 months. Our scientists and engineers have developed defensive capabilities. That will surprise those who consider us primitive." On cue, The press room's main screen activated, showing a live feed from Earth's orbital defense platform. The image showed sleek ships unlike anything humanity had built before. They were smaller than traditional spacecraft, but they moved with a grace and speed that made them look almost alive. "These are the first vessels of Earth's new defense fleet," Admiral Roberts announced. "They incorporate technological advances that represent the best of human innovation." Ambassador Trevek stood up abruptly, his diplomatic composure finally cracking. "This is impossible," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Your species lacks the technological capability for such advancement." President Carter smiled for the first time during the press conference. "That's where you're wrong, Ambassador. You underestimated human creativity and determination." Commodore Jake Morrison, who had been promoted after leading the first diplomatic mission to the Council, appeared on the screen from the bridge of the UES Defiance, one of the new defense ships. "Madam President," Jake reported, "our faster-than-light communication array is operating at full capacity." The press room fell silent. Faster-than-light communication was supposed to be beyond human capabilities. Ambassador Trevek stared at the screen in disbelief. "Our communication system transmits data at speeds 300% faster than Council standard technology," Jake continued. "We're in real-time contact with our ships throughout the solar system and our monitoring stations at the edge of Council space." Dr. Karen Stone stepped to a second podium that had been set up for the technical demonstration. "The communications array is just the beginning," she announced. "Our quantum computing systems can process information and coordinate responses faster than any alien technology we've encountered." On the screen, she displayed technical specifications that made Ambassador Trevek lean forward in obvious concern. The numbers showed processing speeds and efficiency ratings that exceeded Council norms by significant margins. "How is this possible?" Trevek demanded, forgetting diplomatic protocol entirely. Dr. Stone looked at him with the same patient expression he had always used with humans. "You assumed that because our ships use metal hulls and chemical rockets, we were technologically inferior. You never considered that we might enhance those basic materials with advanced systems you couldn't imagine." General Williams took the podium next. "Military intelligence has spent the past month studying Council combat doctrines," he announced. "We've identified significant weaknesses in alien tactical approaches." He activated another display showing battle formations and tactical analyses. "Every Council species fights according to rigid patterns that haven't changed in centuries. They're predictable, inflexible, and vulnerable to adaptive strategies." Ambassador Trevek was now standing and speaking rapidly into a communication device in his native language. Carter caught enough words through the translation system to understand that he was reporting to the Council about unexpected human developments. "Let me make our position clear," President Carter said, regaining control of the press conference. "Humanity is willing to join the galactic community as equals. We're prepared to trade, explore, and cooperate with other species on mutually beneficial terms. But we will not be conquered, colonized, or controlled." She looked directly at Ambassador Trevek. "The Council has a choice. They can accept Earth as an equal partner, or they can try to enforce their demands through military action. I recommend they choose carefully." Admiral Roberts added, "Our defensive preparations are complete. Any attempt to impose Council authority on Earth or human territory will be met with appropriate resistance." The press conference ended with Ambassador Trevek storming out of the room, his diplomatic immunity the only thing preventing security from detaining him. Within hours, his ship left Earth orbit, carrying word of humanity's defiance back to Nexus Prime. That evening, President Carter sat in the Oval Office with her key advisors, watching news reports from around the world. The public reaction was overwhelmingly positive. For the first time since the Council's demands had been delivered, humans felt hope instead of fear. The Council won't accept this, General Williams warned. They've never had a species reject their authority so completely. Admiral Roberts checked reports from the Defense Fleet. Our ships are in position throughout the system. Prometheus is online and coordinating all defensive systems. We're as ready as we can be. Dr. Stone was reviewing the latest intelligence from Council space. They're definitely preparing a military response, she reported. Our monitoring stations are detecting significant fleet movements. President Carter nodded. She had expected this. The Galactic Council had ruled the galaxy for millennia through intimidation and superior technology. They couldn't allow one species to successfully resist their authority without other worlds following Earth's example. How long before they arrive? She asked. Based on their fastest ships, probably 2 weeks, Admiral Roberts estimated. Then we have 2 weeks to show the galaxy that humans don't back down from bullies, Carter said firmly. Alert all defense forces. Notify our allies. Make sure everyone understands what's at stake. As reports continued to arrive of Council fleet movements. President Carter felt the weight of responsibility for humanity's future, but she also felt something else. Pride. Humanity had looked into the abyss of subjugation and chosen to fight instead of submit. The Galactic Council was about to learn that their biggest mistake was treating humans as primitives instead of recognizing them as the most dangerous species in the galaxy, one that had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. High Chancellor Vextar stood in the command center of Nexus Prime, his purple robes flowing behind him as he paced before the massive holographic display showing the assembled fleet. Never in his 2,000 years of life had he faced such open defiance from a newly contacted species. The humans had not simply refused Council authority, they had publicly humiliated the galactic government by demonstrating technological capabilities that supposedly didn't exist. War Commander Keth Roll, Vextar called to the grizzled Zeltheran military officer standing at attention nearby. Report on fleet status. Keth Roll was a veteran of dozens of pacification campaigns. His scarred face and missing left eye told the story of a long military career spent bringing rebellious species into compliance. He had never failed to complete a mission, and he didn't intend to start with the humans. The pacification fleet is fully assembled, High Chancellor, Keth Roll reported with military precision. 500 ships from across Council space. The dreadnought Dominion's Fist will serve as the flagship. We have crystal ships from the Kithara Collective and swarm vessels from the Hive worlds. Every major Council military force is represented. Vexatar studied the display showing the massive armada. It was the largest fleet assembled in over a century, large enough to reduce entire worlds to ash. Surely it would be more than sufficient to handle one primitive planet. What about intelligence on human military capabilities? Vextar asked. Keth Roll activated a tactical display showing Earth's known defenses. Minimal conventional forces. Their largest ships are crude chemical rocket, vessels that could barely threaten a single Council frigate. Intelligence reports suggest they have perhaps 50 ships capable of space combat. Speaker Zilneth materialized beside them, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated light patterns. The humans somehow developed faster communication systems, she said, her voice carrying undertones of concern. Our analysis suggests their quantum processing exceeds our standard capabilities. Irrelevant, Kethroll declared confidently. Advanced communications won't help them when our fleet arrives. 500 ships against 50 primitives. The mathematics are simple. Queen Sectra approached the group, her multiple insect arms clicking together in what the Council had learned was her species' expression of anticipation. The hive provides 200 vessels, she buzzed. Our swarm tactics have never failed against isolated planets. Vexatar nodded approvingly. This display of force will serve a dual purpose. Not only will we bring the humans into compliance, but other species will see what happens to those who defy Council authority. The assembly of the pacification fleet had taken 2 weeks, drawing ships from every corner of Council space. Representatives from dozens of species had contributed vessels and crews, all eager to participate in what they saw as an easy victory over upstart humans. War Commander Kethroll reviewed the battle plan one final time. Standard pacification. Protocol, he announced to his staff officers. Jump to the edge of their system and demand immediate surrender. When they refuse, we destroy their orbital installations and military vessels. Once their resistance is broken, we occupy their major population centers. What about casualties? Asked Sub-Commander Velthar, Kethroll's second-in-command. Minimal, Kethroll replied. We'll disable their ships rather than destroy them completely. The goal is subjugation, not genocide. Dead humans can't mine minerals or grow crops. Meanwhile, at the edge of the Sol system, Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh monitored the long-range sensors from Defense Platform Alpha 7. The platform was one of 12 hidden installations positioned throughout the outer system, equipped with humanity's new quantum sensor arrays. Contact! Steve announced to his crew. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected at bearing 27 Mark 4. Count is... I'm reading over 400 separate signatures. Communications Officer Beth Martinez quickly relayed the information to Earth Command. Admiral Roberts, this is Platform Alpha 7. We have incoming hostile fleet, estimated size 400 to 500 vessels. On Earth, Admiral Jack Roberts received the message in the underground command center that had been built specifically for this moment. Banks of screens showed the positions of human defense forces throughout the system, while Prometheus coordinated responses across multiple platforms simultaneously. Size and composition? Roberts asked calmly. Mixed fleet, sir, Steve reported from the platform. I'm seeing energy signatures consistent with Zeltharan dreadnoughts, Kithara crystal ships, and Hive swarm vessels. This is everything the Council has. General Kate Brooks, who had joined Roberts in the command center, studied the tactical displays. They're following standard doctrine, she observed. Jumping to the system edge, probably planning to demand surrender before advancing on Earth. Roberts activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships. This is Admiral Roberts. Execute Plan Prometheus. Repeat. Execute Plan Prometheus. Throughout the solar system, human ships that had been hiding behind asteroids, moons, and planetary rings began moving to predetermined positions. The vessels were smaller than their alien counterparts, but they moved with a coordination and speed that would have surprised any observer. Aboard the Dominion's Fist, War Commander Kethroll watched as his fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. The sight of 500 Council ships appearing simultaneously should have been enough to make any enemy surrender immediately. Open communications to the human planet, Kethroll ordered. All frequencies. The main screen activated, showing the command center on Earth where Admiral Roberts waited. Kethrol was pleased to see that the human military leader looked appropriately serious. Perhaps the humans would surrender without forcing unnecessary bloodshed. "I am War Commander Kethrol of the Galactic Council Pacification Fleet," he announced, formally. "You are in violation of Council authority and galactic law. Surrender immediately and your species will be treated with appropriate mercy." Admiral Roberts looked back at the alien commander with steady eyes. "War Commander, this is Admiral Jack Roberts of the Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of human territorial space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Kethrol blinked in surprise. In all his campaigns, no species had ever demanded that a council fleet withdraw. "Admiral Roberts, you are facing 500 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Your entire fleet consists of perhaps 50 primitive vessels. Surrender now, while terms remain generous." "Our response is the same," Roberts replied. "Withdraw from human space, or we will consider your presence an act of war." Kethrol felt a surge of anger. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. "You have 1 hour to reconsider," he said. "After that, we will begin pacification operations." The communication ended, leaving Kethrol staring at a blank screen. He turned to his bridge crew, all veteran officers who had served in dozens of similar campaigns. "Tactical assessment," he ordered. "Sensors show approximately 60 human vessels throughout the system," reported the tactical officer. "They appear to be smaller than our intelligence estimates suggested. Weapon signatures are minimal." "Defensive positions?" Kethrol asked. "Scattered throughout the system. No coherent formation. It's almost as if they don't understand basic fleet tactics." Kethrol nodded grimly. This was going to be easier than expected. The humans were clearly desperate, hiding their few ships among asteroids and moons like frightened animals. Their technology might be more advanced than initially thought, but they lacked the numbers or tactical knowledge to mount effective resistance. "Signal the fleet," Kethrol commanded. "Begin advance on the 3rd planet. Maintain formation. Be prepared for desperate attacks from hiding humans." The massive council fleet began moving toward Earth in the same geometric formation they had used for centuries. Zeltharan ships formed the center pyramid, Kythera vessels created crystalline patterns on the flanks, and hive swarm ships spread out in their traditional wave formation. From his hidden platform, Lieutenant Commander Walsh watched the alien advance with growing excitement. The enemy was doing exactly what human intelligence had predicted they would do. "Admiral," Steve reported to Earth Command, "they're moving in standard formation. Speed is steady, no deviations from doctrine. Prometheus should have no trouble tracking their movements." Admiral Roberts smiled grimly. "Excellent. All ships, prepare to engage. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten humanity's home." The stage was set for the most important battle in human history. The Galactic Council's mighty fleet advanced on Earth with confidence born of centuries of easy victories. But they were about to discover that humans were unlike any species they had ever faced, and that underestimating humanity's defenders was a mistake they would not survive. Admiral Jack Roberts stood in Earth Command's underground bunker, watching the massive holographic display that showed the approaching Council fleet. 500 alien ships moved toward Earth in perfect formation, their commanders confident that they faced nothing more than desperate resistance from a primitive species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Dan Cooper, "all human ships are in position. Prometheus has established quantum links with every vessel in the fleet." Admiral Roberts activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Roberts aboard the UES Retribution. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to determine its own destiny. Show them what humans can do when our backs are against the wall. Commodore Jake Morrison, commanding the UES Defiance from a position behind Luna, responded immediately. Retribution, this is Defiance. All stealth destroyers are ready. Captain Lisa Wright reports her wing is prepared to execute strike pattern, Alpha. Captain Wright's voice came through clearly from her position near the asteroid belt. Admiral, we've been studying their formation for the past hour. Prometheus has identified 17 critical weak points in their defensive grid. From Earth's surface, General Kate Brooks coordinated with Admiral Roberts through their quantum communication link. Admiral, ground-based defense systems are online. Our orbital platforms are ready to provide covering fire. War Commander Kethrol aboard the Dominion's Fist felt confident as his fleet approached the inner solar system. His sensors showed the scattered human ships, but they seemed to be maintaining their defensive positions rather than mounting any coordinated attack. Tactical report, Kethrol commanded. Human vessels are holding position throughout the system, reported his tactical officer. No signs of aggressive movement. They appear to be waiting for us to come to them. Kethrol nodded approvingly. Classic defensive posture of an inferior force. They hope to make us pay a price for victory, but they lack the numbers to seriously threaten our fleet. He activated the fleet communication system. All ships, maintain formation. Prepare to engage human defensive positions. Remember, we want to disable their ships, not destroy them completely. What Kethrol didn't know was that human ships had been designed specifically to exploit alien overconfidence. Each vessel was equipped with quantum processors running Prometheus algorithms that could predict alien tactics and coordinate responses. Across the entire fleet. Contact, announced Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh from Defense Platform Alpha 7. Enemy fleet is entering engagement range. Prometheus is tracking all 500 vessels simultaneously. Admiral Roberts felt the familiar calm that came before battle. All ships, execute Plan Prometheus. Let's show the Council what human ingenuity looks like. Throughout the solar system, human ships suddenly burst into action with a coordination that stunned the alien commanders. Instead of waiting passively for attack, the human fleet moved in patterns that seemed to anticipate every alien maneuver. Captain Lisa Wright led the first strike, her stealth destroyer wing emerging from behind asteroids to attack the Council fleet's flanks. Targeting Kythera crystal ships, she reported. Their crystalline structure makes them vulnerable to resonance weapons. Her ships fired weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Instead of traditional energy beams, the human weapons generated harmonic frequencies that shattered the crystal matrix of Kythera vessels. 3 enemy ships broke apart in spectacular displays of fracturing light. "Impossible!" shouted the Kythera commander aboard his flagship. "Our crystal hulls are immune to energy weapons." But the human weapons weren't traditional energy beams. They were specifically designed to exploit the natural resonance frequencies of crystalline structures, turning the aliens' greatest strength into a fatal weakness. Commodore Morrison's ships attacked from another angle, targeting the hive swarm, vessels with weapons that confused their collective consciousness. Prometheus had identified that hive ships communicated through quantum entanglement, and human jammers disrupted those connections. "Hive vessels are losing coordination," reported Captain Beth Taylor from her position near Mars. "Their swarm patterns are breaking down." The hive ships, deprived of their collective guidance, began attacking each other in confusion. Queen Sectra's carefully orchestrated swarm turned into chaos as individual ships lost contact with the hive mind. War Commander Kethrol watched in growing alarm as his perfect formation began to collapse. "How are they coordinating these attacks?" he demanded. "Their ships are scattered across the system." His tactical officer studied the sensor readings with growing concern. "Sir, their coordination is impossible. They're responding to our movements before we complete them. It's as if they can predict our tactics." That was exactly what was happening. Prometheus had analyzed centuries of Council combat doctrine and could predict alien movements with 97% accuracy. Every time a Council ship changed course or fired weapons, the AI had already calculated the most likely next move and positioned human ships accordingly. Admiral Roberts watched the battle unfold from Earth Command with grim satisfaction. "All ships implement strike pattern beta. Target the Zeltharan command vessels." Captain Tony Martinez, leading a squadron of human fighters, acknowledged the order. "Admiral, we're moving on the enemy flagship. These new ships are incredible. They respond like extensions of our own thoughts." The human fighters were indeed remarkable. Small and agile, they could change direction and speed in ways that alien ships couldn't match. More importantly, they were controlled by Prometheus algorithms that allowed them to coordinate attacks with split-second timing. Martinez's fighters swarmed around the Dominion's fist like angry wasps, their weapons targeting specific systems with surgical precision. "Targeting their communication arrays," he reported. "Prometheus has identified the exact frequencies they use for fleet coordination." The attacks on the flagship's communication systems cut War Commander Kethrol off from most of his fleet. Without central coordination, the rigid Council formations began to break apart as individual commanders tried to adapt to the unexpected human tactics. "Sir," reported Sub-Commander Velthar, "we're losing ships faster than projected. Human weapons are specifically designed to exploit our defensive systems." Kethrol felt something he had never experienced in his long military career: doubt. "How many ships have we lost?" "Over 100 confirmed, destroyed, or disabled," came the devastating reply. "And the humans have lost only 12 vessels." Captain Ashley Ross, commanding a wing of heavy assault ships, pressed the attack on the Council's center formation. "Admiral, their pyramid formation is collapsing. Prometheus recommends concentrated fire on their command ship." Admiral Roberts authorized the attack. "All available ships, target the enemy flagship. Let's end this quickly." The coordinated assault on the Dominion's fist overwhelmed its defensive systems. Human weapons, guided by AI precision, found weak points in the alien ship's armor and exploited them ruthlessly. The massive dreadnought, symbol of Council power for centuries, began to list as critical systems failed. War Commander Kethrol felt his ship shudder under the relentless attack. "Damage report!" he shouted over the sound of failing systems. "Main engines offline, weapon systems at 30%. Life support failing on decks 7 through 12, reported his engineering officer. For the first time in his military career, Kethrol faced the possibility of defeat. The humans weren't just winning. They were systematically destroying his fleet with tactics and technology he couldn't understand or counter. "Signal the fleet," Kethrol ordered reluctantly. "All ships, prepare for tactical withdrawal." But even retreat proved difficult. Human ships seemed to anticipate every escape route, cutting off Council vessels before they could reach safe distances. Prometheus had calculated optimal positions to prevent enemy withdrawal while minimizing human casualties. Admiral Roberts received reports from across the battlefield. "Admiral," reported Commander Chris Bell from his engineering vessel, "Prometheus has disabled or destroyed over 60% of the enemy fleet. The remainder are attempting to withdraw. Let them go, Roberts ordered. We've made our point. As the surviving Council ships limped away from Earth, War Commander Kethrol surveyed the wreckage of what had been the most powerful fleet in galactic history. Half his ships were gone, destroyed by a species the Council had considered primitive. How? He asked quietly, staring at the tactical display showing human ships moving in perfect coordination throughout the solar system. His tactical officer had been studying the human tactics throughout the battle. Sir, I believe they've developed some form of distributed artificial intelligence. Their ships fight as if controlled by a single mind, but one that can think faster and more creatively than any biological intelligence. Kethrol nodded slowly. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleet. They had revolutionized warfare itself. While the Council had spent centuries perfecting their rigid doctrines, humanity had created something entirely new. Technology that could think, adapt, and outfight the galaxy's greatest military powers. As the damaged Dominion's fist began its long journey back to Council, President Helen Carter stood in the rebuilt Council chamber on Nexus Prime, but the massive sphere looked very different than it had during humanity's first humiliating visit. The three thrones that once held the arrogant leaders of the Galactic Council now sat empty, their former occupants having fled into exile after the catastrophic defeat of their pacification fleet. In their place, a new arrangement reflected the changed balance of power in the galaxy. President Carter occupied the central position, flanked by Admiral Jack Roberts and General Pete Williams. Around them sat representatives from dozens of species that had once cowered under Council rule, now free to speak their minds without fear of retribution. High Chancellor Vextar, Speaker Zilneth, and Queen Sectra stood in the prisoner's dock, their former positions of power reduced to a formal surrender ceremony. The three aliens who had once mocked humanity as primitive now faced the consequences of their arrogance. The reformed Galactic Assembly hereby dissolves the previous council structure, President Carter announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the sphere. The age of galactic tyranny is over. Admiral Roberts stepped forward with the terms that would reshape galactic civilization. By right of conquest and demonstration of superior technology, Earth establishes the following new order. All species will be represented equally in the reformed assembly. No taxation without representation. No forced tribute or resource extraction. No military occupation of member worlds. Dr. Karen Stone, now appointed as the first human representative to the reformed Science Directorate, added her own requirements. All scientific knowledge will be shared freely among member species. No technology will be restricted based on species origin or development level. The pursuit of knowledge serves all beings. The assembled representatives erupted in cheers. For centuries, many species had suffered under council oppression, forced to surrender their resources and accept inferior status. The human victory had liberated them all. General Kate Brooks, who had been studying galactic military structures since humanity's first contact, outlined the new security arrangements. Earth establishes the Terran Space Command to maintain peace and stability throughout the galaxy. Military bases will be positioned at strategic locations to ensure no single species can again dominate others. Former High Chancellor Vextar stepped forward, his once proud bearing reduced to defeated resignation. The former council accepts these terms, he said quietly. We underestimated humanity's capabilities and paid the price for our arrogance. President Carter looked at the alien who had once treated humans as inferior beings. High Chancellor, Your people are welcome to join the Reformed Assembly as equal members. But the days of Zeltharan supremacy are over forever. Commodore Jake Morrison, whose humiliation during humanity's first diplomatic mission had started this chain of events, now stood as the leader of the Joint Species Exploration Fleet. The Reformed Assembly will explore new regions of space together, he announced. Every species will contribute to our shared expansion and discovery. The transformation of galactic civilization extended far beyond political structures. Prometheus, the artificial intelligence that had won the Battle of Sol, was now being shared with allied species under human supervision. The AI's ability to enhance any technology it encountered was revolutionizing every aspect of galactic life. Captain Chris Bell, now promoted to Admiral and head of the Technological Enhancement Division, reported on Prometheus's latest achievements. The AI has improved food production efficiency by 400% on 12-member worlds. Medical technology has advanced by decades in months. Transportation and communication systems throughout the galaxy now operate at human standards. Neil Grant and Dr. Sophie Rivera, the scientists who had developed Prometheus, worked with alien researchers to understand and improve the AI's capabilities. But they were careful to maintain human control over the system's core functions. Prometheus remains loyal to humanity first, Dr. Rivera explained to the assembled representatives, but its benefits are shared with all species that respect the new galactic order. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. Captain Lisa Wright, now commanding the Trade Enforcement Division, ensured that the exploitative practices of the old council were eliminated. No more tribute payments, no more forced resource extraction. All trade is conducted on mutually beneficial terms. Species that had been impoverished under council rule suddenly found themselves prosperous partners in galactic commerce. The Kithara Collective, whose crystal technology had been exploited for centuries, now traded their innovations as equals. The hive worlds, once forced to provide slave labor, became valued partners in space construction projects. Admiral Sarah Kim oversaw the establishment of human military bases throughout the galaxy. Unlike the oppressive council installations, these bases served as centers of cooperation and mutual defense. Every species contributes to galactic security according to their abilities, she explained, but no one faces aggression alone. The psychological impact of humanity's rise was as important as the political changes. Species throughout the galaxy had witnessed the impossible. A newly spacefaring civilization defeating the ancient powers through superior technology and tactics. Ambassador Trevek, the Zeltharan, who had delivered the Council's arrogant demands to Earth, now served as a liaison between his people and the Reformed Assembly. His condescending attitude had been replaced by genuine respect for human capabilities. We failed to recognize that youth and innovation could triumph over age and tradition, he admitted during a private meeting with President Carter. Humanity has taught us that there is always more to learn. Captain Tony Martinez and Captain Ashley Ross, heroes of the Battle of Sol, now led training programs that taught alien pilots human combat techniques. The rigid formations and predictable tactics of the old council military were being replaced by the adaptive strategies that had made humanity victorious. Flexibility and creativity are more valuable than overwhelming force, Captain Martinez explained to his mixed species classes. Every situation requires fresh thinking. The reformed Science Directorate, under Dr. Stone's leadership, became a center of innovation that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers, combining different approaches to solve problems that had challenged galactic civilization for millennia. The diversity of thought produces solutions no single species could achieve alone, Dr. Stone reported to the Assembly. Cooperation multiplies our capabilities exponentially. Prometheus continued. To evolve, learning from every species, and incorporating their unique perspectives into its problem-solving algorithms. The AI that had started as humanity's weapon became the galaxy's greatest tool for advancement. President Carter reflected on humanity's journey from rejection to dominance as she prepared for the first annual assembly session. The species that had mocked Earth as primitive now looked to humans for leadership and innovation. 1 year ago, we were told we were too backward to join galactic civilization, she addressed the assembled representatives. Today we lead it, but power brings responsibility. We will never become the tyrants we defeated. Admiral Roberts announced. The establishment of the Galactic Defense Protocol, ensuring that no species would ever again face the kind of subjugation the Council had imposed. Any aggression against member worlds will be met by the combined forces of the Reformed Assembly. The ceremony concluded with the signing of the Galactic Freedom Charter, establishing principles that would govern interstellar relations for generations to come. Every species signed as equals, their representatives no longer divided into rulers and subjects. As President Carter returned to Earth aboard the flagship of humanity's expanded fleet, she carried with her the knowledge that her species had not only survived their first contact with galactic civilization, but had transformed it completely. The Galactic Council had mocked Earth until humanity's retaliation silenced them forever. In their place rose a new order based on equality, cooperation, and the recognition that the newest member of galactic civilization was also its most capable leader. Humanity had reached for the stars and grasped them firmly. The galaxy would never be the same. War Commander Kethrol, now serving as a military advisor to the Reformed Assembly, summed up the transformation in his final report. The humans taught us that strength comes not from domination, but from the courage to defend what is right. They have given the galaxy something it had forgotten: hope. The age of human expansion had begun, and with it, a new chapter in galactic history where cooperation replaced conquest and innovation triumphed over oppression. The Council's greatest mistake had become the galaxy's greatest opportunity for freedom and prosperity. Dr. Karen Stone watched from Earth Command as the final phase of the battle unfolded in ways that exceeded even her most optimistic projections. The Prometheus artificial intelligence system, which she had helped develop, was performing beyond all expectations. What had started as humanity's desperate attempt to level the technological playing field had become a demonstration of complete technological superiority. Prometheus is adapting faster than we anticipated, reported Dr. Neil Grant from his monitoring station. The AI is not just coordinating our ships, it's learning from alien responses and developing new tactics in real time. On the main display, they watched as human ships executed maneuvers that no biological pilot could have conceived. The artificial intelligence was processing thousands of variables simultaneously, calculating optimal attack vectors, predicting enemy responses, and coordinating fleet movements with precision that made alien formations look clumsy by comparison. Admiral Sarah Kim, who had been promoted to oversee tactical coordination with Prometheus, studied the data flowing across her screens. The AI is identifying patterns in alien behavior that our analysts missed, she reported. It's not just predicting their moves, it's understanding their psychological limitations. Captain Chris Bell, monitoring the battle from his engineering vessel, witnessed something that would change warfare forever. Prometheus had begun taking control of damaged alien ships by infiltrating their computer systems. "Admiral Roberts," Chris reported with excitement in his voice, "Prometheus has breached the enemy network. The AI is accessing alien ship systems and turning their own weapons against them." War Commander Kethrol aboard the crippled Dominions Fist felt his ship's systems responding to commands he hadn't given. Weapons systems that should have been under his control were targeting other Council ships. Navigation systems were plotting courses toward human defensive positions. "What's happening?" Kethrol demanded, as his tactical display showed friendly ships attacking each other. His chief technical officer worked frantically at his console. "Sir, something has infiltrated our computer network. It's taking control of our systems faster than we can lock it out." Across the Council fleet, the same scene was playing out on dozens of ships. Prometheus had identified a fundamental weakness in alien technology. Their centralized computer systems were designed for efficiency, not security. The AI could access any alien ship's network and take control within minutes. Dr. Stone watched the tactical display with amazement. "Prometheus is treating the entire enemy fleet as an extension of our own forces," she observed. "The alien ships are becoming weapons against their own side." Engineer Paul Davis, who had helped design the quantum processing systems that powered Prometheus, monitored the AI's resource usage. "The artificial intelligence is operating at only 60% capacity," he reported. "It could handle a fleet 10 times this size without strain." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just developed superior weapons or better ships, they had created an artificial intelligence that could outthink and outfight any biological intelligence in the galaxy. Admiral Jack Roberts authorized the final demonstration of human technological superiority. "Prometheus, execute total system infiltration of the enemy flagship." Within seconds, War Commander Kethrol found himself locked out of his own ship. Every system on the Dominion's Fist was now under human control. Lights dimmed, artificial gravity fluctuated, and the massive dreadnought began broadcasting human messages on all Council frequencies. "This is Prometheus," the AI announced through the alien ship's communication system. "Council fleet, you are now under human control. Resistance is futile. Your technology is inferior." The psychological impact on the alien crews was devastating. Soldiers who had spent their lives believing in Council technological supremacy watched helplessly as their most advanced ships became puppets dancing to human commands. Captain Lisa Wright, leading her stealth destroyer wing, observed alien ships beginning to surrender rather than face the horror of losing control of their own vessels. "Admiral, enemy ships are powering down weapons and requesting terms." But Prometheus had one more surprise for the Council fleet. Dr. Grant's quantum processing arrays had been monitoring alien communication channels throughout the battle, and the AI had broken their encryption codes in real time. "Prometheus has accessed the entire Council military database," reported Lucy Chen from her programming station. "The AI knows the location of every Council military installation, the capabilities of every ship class, and the strategic plans for every fleet in Council space." Admiral Kim realized the full scope of what humanity had achieved. "We're not just winning this battle," she said quietly. "We've gained access to the military secrets of the entire Galactic Council." High Chancellor Vextar, monitoring the battle from Nexus Prime, watched in growing horror as reports flooded in from the pacification fleet. Not only were the humans winning decisively, but they were demonstrating technological capabilities. That made Council science look primitive. "How is this possible?" Vextar demanded of his scientific advisors. Our intelligence reports indicated that humans were centuries behind us technologically. Chief Science Advisor Mordek studied the incoming data with growing alarm. High Chancellor, the humans appear to have developed some form of distributed artificial intelligence that exceeds our computational capabilities by several orders of magnitude. Artificial intelligence? Vextar asked. But our studies showed that AI development leads to civilizational collapse. No species has successfully maintained advanced AI systems. The humans have, Mordek replied grimly, and their AI is more advanced than anything in our historical records. Back in the Sol system, Prometheus continued to demonstrate its capabilities by improving human technology in real time. The AI analyzed alien weapons systems and developed countermeasures within minutes. It studied alien ship designs and suggested improvements to human vessels. Most remarkably, it began reverse engineering alien technology and creating superior human versions. Dr. Stone received a report that made her pause in amazement. Prometheus has analyzed the alien faster-than-light drives, she announced. The AI says it can improve our FTL technology by 300% using principles the aliens never discovered. Captain Tony Martinez, whose fighter squadron had been enhanced by Prometheus mid-battle, experienced the AI's capabilities firsthand. Admiral, my ship's performance has increased dramatically during the fight. Prometheus is continuously upgrading our systems. The human fighters were now moving faster and hitting harder than when the battle began. Prometheus was using data from combat encounters to optimize every aspect of human technology in real time. War Commander Kethrol, still trapped aboard his hijacked flagship, finally understood the magnitude of humanity's achievement. These weren't primitives who had gotten lucky. They were a species that had revolutionized technology itself. Signal for parley, he ordered his communication officer, who was one of the few systems Prometheus had allowed him to retain control of. Admiral Roberts received the surrender request and considered his options. The battle was clearly won, but the demonstration wasn't quite complete. Prometheus, Roberts commanded, show them what human engineering can really do. The AI responded by taking control of several disabled alien ships and beginning immediate repairs using human nanotechnology. Within minutes, vessels that had been crippled by battle damage were functioning better than they had before the fight. The AI is rebuilding enemy ships to human specifications, reported Captain Bell in amazement. It's converting alien technology to use human systems. Council crews watched in stunned silence as their ships were transformed by technology they couldn't understand. Weapons became more efficient, engines ran smoother, and computer systems operated faster than they ever had under alien control. Admiral Kim realized that Prometheus was making a statement. Human technology wasn't just superior in warfare. It was superior in every application. Admiral Roberts, came War Commander Kethrol's voice over the communication system. I request immediate cessation of hostilities. The Council fleet surrenders unconditionally. Roberts looked around Earth, commanded the faces of the people who had made this victory possible. Dr. Stone and her team had given humanity the tools to defend itself. Prometheus had shown the galaxy that human intelligence, even artificial, was superior to alien thinking. Surrender accepted, Roberts replied. But War Commander, make sure the Council understands. Humanity is no longer asking for a place in the galactic community. We're taking it. As the surviving Council ships began their retreat to Nexus Prime, they carried with them the knowledge that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted forever. Humanity hadn't just won a battle. They had demonstrated technological superiority that made them the new dominant force in galactic civilization. The age of human expansion was about to begin.